All right, good evening, class. We are going to be looking at the even and odd properties of our trig functions. If you remember, an even function, if our input is negative, our output will be positive. And with an odd function, if our input is negative, our output will also be negative. Okay, look at our little graph here. Here is positive theta, and here is negative theta. So, if we start with our unit circle, you'll notice that the sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. Okay, so looking at sine, what happens if we put in the sine of negative 30 degrees? So that would be right here. Notice our output is negative 1/2. So since if we input a negative theta into sine, we get a negative output. So sine is an odd function. We inputted a negative and we got an output of a negative. Therefore, the sine of negative theta is equal to negative sine of theta. Okay, let's test cosine. Cosine of 30 is the square root of 3 over 2. The cosine of negative 30 is also the square root of 3 over 2. So here we inputted a negative and we got out a positive. That's going to make cosine input a negative, get out a positive. So cosine is an even function. Sine is an odd function. All right, tangent. So if we input a negative, what do we get out? Well, let's take a look. Again, if we use 30 degrees, and we put in y over x, it's going to be a positive output. So if we put tangent of negative 30, and we put y over x, we get a negative output. So negative input results in a negative output. So for tomorrow, one of the things I'd like you to do is give me the reciprocal functions and determine whether they are odd or even. I will be checking for this during your warm-up. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at an example. Let's say that we want to find the sine of negative 60 degrees. Well, knowing that sine is an odd function tells us that our output is going to be negative. And so the sine of 60 degrees is the square root of 3 over 2. And it will be negative because sine is an odd function. All right, let's take a look at some other properties. These properties can be found in your textbook on page 394. First property we want to look at is the Pythagorean property, and it goes like this: sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. And let me show you how we get that. You know, on our unit circle, what is the radius of our unit circle? Our radius is 1. So if we draw in our x and our y, you'll notice a right triangle. Applying the Pythagorean theorem to this, we get x squared plus y squared equals 1 squared. Well, we know that sine is equal to y, so if we substitute y equals sine of theta and x equals cosine of theta, if we substitute those in, we get sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. And that's how we derive the Pythagorean identity. Notice where the square is located. This is the same thing as this. Same thing. Now from the Pythagorean identity, we can get two more identities that you need to know. The first identity would be to divide everything by cosine of theta. So if I divide everything by, cosine squared of theta, we notice that sine squared theta over cosine squared theta, sine over cosine is tangent, so that would be tangent squared theta. Those cancel, giving us a 1. And 1 over cosine is secant, and all we do, since it's squared, it would be secant squared theta. The next identity is found by taking the Pythagorean identity and dividing it through by the sine squared theta. Divide everything by sine squared theta. So that cancels and gives us 1. Cosine over sine, correct, that's cotangent, except we're going to square it. And 1 over sine is cosecant, we're going to square it. And that gives us our next identity. So we got this one, and this one. Please be sure to look at the fundamental identities on the bottom of page 394. And here's your assignment. Just 4 more problems, 3 of them pertaining to the even and odd properties, and 1 pertaining to the properties of trigonometric functions. And I'll see you tomorrow.